Yo, what's going on, people? Episode 11 of Healing with Sam. Hope everyone's good. Hope everyone is enjoying the ride. So today we are going to get back to the story, back to where we were before we were rudely interrupted by these IV antibiotics and this whole trying to tell a story of healing, not a story of decline. So yeah, back to it. So where I think we got to was about 4 years ago, first time doing ayahuasca. So much to say, so much to say about this. Ayahuasca has been a very key, crucial, beautiful, powerful part of this story, of this journey. Yeah, it's cool to look back at it all. I've been on 5 retreats now, sat in 11 ceremonies with ayahuasca, everyone beautifully painful, beautifully just, yeah. So back to the first one, it was January 2022. Yeah, there's kind of lots of different things to try and weave into this. There's a few different moving parts I think I'm going to try and bring into this. So, catch you up a little bit. Where do I want to catch you up from? Because the thing is with this first time doing ayahuasca as well was the real start of the journey into all of the repressed emotion as well, which is obviously a massive part of the journey as well. So let's take that back a little bit. So about a year prior to this, up until that point, I had been completely repressing all of my emotions, completely disassociated from it all, unaware of anything happening below here, the mind. And I broke up with a partner, heart-wrenching breakup, and it broke me open. For like the first 3 weeks after we broke up, I was still just in the mind, like, no, just rationalizing it, like, oh, this is life, this is what happens, blah, 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 blah. But then just, it forced its way out of me. About 3 weeks later, I was driving, and all of a sudden, just overcome by this huge, like, panic, terror almost, of just like, whoa. But I kind of realized, like, oh, I need to break down. Like, I need to, like, but I was driving somewhere, so kind of held it all in, and then got back home later, and then just let it come, and just wept and wept and wept and wept. And obviously that just opened the floodgates then, but I was still in this whole state of very much trying to resist all that. Still in a mindset of like, oh, there's no need for all that, you know. But I could feel it there, it was all building, I was getting all these aches and pains in my shoulders and my neck where I was holding it all in. And then about a week after that, I was in work, and it all started coming up. I feel it come up, and then just like I was trying to push it down because I was sat on, like, I work in a mental health hospital. I was sat on close obs outside someone's bedroom with another member of staff by there, and it's coming up, and I'm like, oh no, trying to fight it, and it's all like getting stuck, and I was like, whoa. And I literally just freaked out, like ran into the office, like fighting back the tears, and was just like, I gotta go home. And they were just like, what? I was like, I gotta go. I ran out, ran home, and then just wept all day. So it started coming, and then like a week after that, I went back to work again, and I was in. Yeah, this is another mad part of the story. We will bring this in as well, because this was also, and there's so many things tied into all this. So this was also kind of the real first opening into the sort of spiritual aspect of this journey. So a week later, I'm back in work. I think I've been crying all week, and I'm stood there. It's about 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm just stood there, and out of nowhere, this thing just comes into my head. Like, it's not even me. It just goes, who am I? And I just started freaking out, panicking, like, oh my God, who am I? Like, I don't know who I am. And I'm just there having this whole panic, freaking out. And then someone calls me into this guy's bedroom to help get him changed and dressed in his bed. And there's like 4 of us in there, and he's aggressive. And I'm like there freaking out, like, who am I? Who am I? And the dude punches me in the ribs. And I'm like, wow, just like, oh, too much. I come out of there, and I'm like, I gotta go. I can't be at work. I gotta go home and break down. And so I left, went home. I think I drove to my mother's and just like broke down in my mother's arms and just spent the whole day crying again. And then, yeah, the next morning, and this is interesting to reflect on. So how that happened, that whole like panic of who am I? And I think like when I reflect on this now, I think that come from because my identity was so wrapped up in this sort of joyful, positive thinking way of being all the time. And that was obviously starting to crumble big time as I allowed the sadness to take over. And so it was a big sort of break in my identity. And I know for months after that, like, yeah, I completely, like, felt like I just lost who I was completely, as I just succumbed for months to this like deep, deep sadness and grief. And so I woke up the next morning. This is crazy, like, this is crazy. So I woke up the next morning and I just lying there and just something's different. I'm like, I don't know who I am. Like, I don't know what I am. I have no, like, I'd completely lost my sense of self. Like, I just had no concept or idea of self, of I. And I was just like, thoughts were coming into my head, but it just felt like everything was just drifting by and I couldn't hold anything and I wasn't anchored anywhere. And I'd lost my sense of self. Essentially, I'd had like a mini sort of ego death, I think, like, so like, and I was just freaking out a bit and I went to the toilet, like, so I just woke up and I'm sat in the toilet and I just thought, I wonder if this is an ego death, because luckily I'd heard about it. And so I looked up online and I was like, ego death, and I was like, oh yeah, that sounds like what I'm having. So then I was kind of buzzing, because I'd been sort of interested in spirituality for some years up until this point, but not from a very embodied place, not from having experienced too much beyond just the thinking mind at this point. And that was about to change. So all of a sudden I'm buzzing. I'm like, oh, cool, I'm having an ego death. That's wicked. So then I'm just like overcome with this energy. And then I look to the side at my plants. Got some plants up on the windowsill. And just all of a sudden, I'm just on fire and overcome with the knowing that me and these plants are one. And that we are just love. And we are connected as one, as love. And just, there's no separation, it's just love. And as I'm like realizing that, the plant starts waving its leaves at me like this, just like, yes, yes. And I'm like, oh. So, you know, and this is the most energy, the most ecstasy, the most fire, electricity I've ever felt in my life. I'm just like, literally just my whole body just like, and then the little tulip, I look at the little tulip by there and he's just flapping his petals like, yes. And I'm just like, what? You know. And so I'm just like, and then the craziest part, and I still don't have an explanation for this to this day, other than perhaps there was so much energy coming off me that like, you could move things. So I've had a shit at this point. So I turn around to grab the toilet roll. Toilet roll is by here. And as I go to touch it, to grab it, it just goes, poop. Just goes, poop, jumped over. Now, make of that what you will, but, and I'm just there like, what? What? And meanwhile, I'm still just absolutely fucking, like, the most I've ever felt in my life. And I go into Izzy's bedroom. This girl had recently moved in with me. It's like 7 in the morning and I go into her bedroom like, Izzy, I've had an ego death. I think I'm awakening. The fucking plants are waving at me. I gotta go be outside. Like, I just wanted to go and be around more plants. And I was just like, and she was like, what are we on? I was like, I gotta go. And like ran outside to go for a walk. And then like all of a sudden just come back. Just the sense of self, the ego just come back. And I was like, what just happened? Like, yeah, so there was that. I can't remember what I was saying before that. This episode might end up being too long. There's too much to say and all this. So yeah, that happened. So then, yeah, basically, so leading up to the ayahuasca. So for then, like, the next 10 months, this grief. So like after that point, after that day, I had to have a month off work because I just couldn't work. I was just breaking down all day, every day, like crying constantly all day. Like, you mean, I'd opened those floodgates and there was all that grief, all that sadness, but then obviously so much stored energy also then coming out with that. And that carried on for like 5 months of crying and breaking down every day, feeling that grief of that relationship ending. And just getting deeper and deeper and deeper into it, and just like, you know, just having like just exorcisms like every day, just on the floor writhing and screaming and just like, wow. So that's crucial, because that was the first thing that opened me up, broke me emotionally. That opened the sort of door to then where we get to around the time of the ayahuasca. So that had happened about a year prior. So throughout that year, it took like 10 months. Like, it was every day for 5 months of having those huge, but every day, or like most days for 10 months, then crying, releasing all this, and just, yeah, and then it comes to the time, of doing the ayahuasca. And it just so happened that around that same time I started reading this book, When the Body Says No, by Gabor Mate, and it was all about repressed emotions. I still, up until this point, I still didn't know anything about that whole topic, really. Like, I'd obviously been experiencing all this coming up, but then, yeah, it all sort of switched up, and I started then going into everything I'd previously repressed all of my life, which was, 27, 28 years of repressing everything. Like, I had no idea, no experience of what guilt or shame felt like, anger, I only ever like sadness, like, you mean, so much. And so I'm reading this book as I go to Portugal, and it's sort of talking about repressed emotions and how that shows up and what that looks like and where it's come from, like in relationships with parents and whatever. And I'm just like, oh, do you know, that sounds like me. Like, a lot of this sounds like me. I'm like this. So I'm there in Portugal, I'm reading this. I'm like, man, I think I probably have a lot of repressed emotions. And then the day of doing ayahuasca for the first time, so the night before, I don't know how much this played into it as well, the night before we did sananga, which is another medicine, comes in an eye drop, stings like a motherfucker, like no sting you've ever felt in your life. But one of the things that does apparently is clear some emotional blockages. And so then the next day after doing that, I felt shame for the first time. All of a sudden I was just sat there and just this, like, come on, I was like, oh, what is this? And I was like, took myself away, went to the lake, and I was just like, oh, what is this? Like, just, and I realised, I think it's a shame. I think I'm feeling shame. And then I was just like weeping and wailing by the lake of just this shame. And then that day, I must have felt every single emotion that there is to feel. Like, it was a hell of a day, like, tough. And obviously leading into doing ayahuasca for the first time as well, there's a lot of nerves and tension going into that, so it's all just a bit much. I'd also just broke up with Florrie at the time as well, so there was just a lot. And by the time it comes to the evening to go and do the ayahuasca, like an hour before, I was just lying in bed, absolutely exhausted. Like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I can't go on a psychedelic journey right now. I'm absolutely spent. But then I realised, like, to be fair, it's probably not going to be anything worse than the day has already been. The hard part's probably done. And it was. Because, yeah, that first ceremony was, one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had in my life. So we drank the second cup. First cup, didn't really feel too much. Second cup, for some reason, as I went to receive the cup, and I sort of placed my intention into this cup before I drink it, for some reason, my mind just went, show me love. And she did. Sat back down about 5 minutes later. It all comes over me, and then I just feel my heart peeling open like layers of an onion, just like, and then just, I was just in a state of pure love for the next like 3-4 hours. For the rest of the ceremony, all I could think or fathom was love. The only thought I had for like 3 hours was just, this is an impossible amount of love. And I was just sat there, just radiating, just beaming, just looking at everyone through the dark, just in love, And that's another crucial part of the whole story as well, because like, as the Ayurvedic doctor had said to me in France, love, like, if you want to heal yourself, you'll have to love yourself more. And so that was a big part of that whole journey as well, as just opening the heart in that way, accessing love. And that all obviously then ties into the whole emotional journey as well, which was started at this point. And yeah, from that point onwards was the start of the diving into of all the emotions I'd repressed. I think, when I got back home after that retreat, went straight into the shame. I went straight into 2-3 months of processing all that shame and self-hatred, and just every day having these huge cathartic releases of just hatred for myself, And it was funny because, a few months before with the Ayurvedic doctor, he was telling me, you need to love yourself more. And I was like, I don't know what he's talking about. I don't have a problem with my self-worth, blah, blah, blah. But I remember thinking like, I'll figure it out. It'll play itself out. And so then a few months later, with the help of ayahuasca and everything else that was going on, it did. I started to like open up, and I went into all of those parts of me that hate myself, that feel worthless, that just feel like I'm absolutely nothing. It feels like I deserve nothing and all of that. Yeah. There's a whole video, many videos to sort of describe that whole process, but that was the start of that journey, which is obviously then through the years and very much tied into further ayahuasca journeys as well, opened up through all of my repressed emotions, then into ancestral emotions that I carry within the body, which are linked to the root of the disease, I believe. It would seem we'll come to all of that. I never say things succinctly when I'm telling these stories because I don't know what I'm saying before. I think I might just remember and I'm like, oh, we'll talk about this, and then I don't know if any of that was anything. Did I just say something? Yeah, I don't know if there was more I wanted to say about it, but ayahuasca, medicine of the highest caliber is what I would say. Not for everyone, but for those who feel called. Yeah, so yeah, from that first retreat, the opening up of all the repressed emotions, which has been my journey for the last 3-4 years since then. Also just love, opening to love, like the 2 months after that, like I was just walking around, just love, just in love. And obviously you learn to sort of embody that. Obviously that fades over time, and it's a process of integrating and embodying that as much as you can, more and more over time with life, bringing that into the everyday, holding on to that. Yeah, big part of the journey. Leave it there, I guess. Hope you're all good. Let me know, like I'd love to know, when you hear that story of the toilet roll going poop, what do you think of that? Like, what's your first kind of like, because I imagine a lot of people are just like, what? What are you on about? Like my parents, I think I've told my parents this. I definitely told my mother. I don't know about my father. What do you reckon of that, Daddy? I don't know what I'm saying anyway, shut up now. All the best to everyone. Hope you have a wicked day. Hope you have a wicked week. I'll catch you next week for the next episode. Don't know where we're going from there. I guess into the emotional journey from that point. Yeah, all the best.